Howdy folks, it's Monty with XS Sights, and today we're going to install one of our new ACRO mounting plates on a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Optic ready, right? So to do this, we're obviously going to need our slide, our ACRO. We'll need a screwdriver or a T8 Torx bit or a T8 Torx wrench, and the hardware kit for the new plate. We've got obviously our review card and an XS Sight sticker, blue Loctite. I'm not going to open this one. I've got some right here that I can use, but we will include it with the kit. The new Optic plate, a T10 Torx driver bit, and our mounting screws. Let's go ahead and get started. So we've already got a field strip slide. If you need to field strip your firearm, please do so safely. Please refer to your owner's manual for instructions on how to do that. We're going to take our T8 Torx bit and we're going to remove the original, the screws for the original cover plate. Now this cover plate has been off a few times, so these screws aren't super tight. Yours might be a little tighter. Not a huge deal though. So we're going to yank these screws. And we're going to pull the cover plate out of the way. Now, before we get too much further, I want you guys to take note. You see this silver plate that I'm pointing at with the T8 bit? That is your firing pin safety block and spring assembly. So when we go to add in the Loctite, we want to kind of shy away from that. We don't want to run any risk of that Loctite getting down there and locking up that assembly. All right, first thing we want to do, yank our screws out now. And we're going to go ahead and dry fit everything. So holes go towards the screw holes, go closer to the rear sight, and we're going to drop it down in there. It's going to be a snug fit, but that's what we want. Screws look like they're going to line up fine, but we're going to go ahead, like I said, and dry fit. So we'll drop the screws in and grab that T10 driver bit. You can put it on the screwdriver handle. In fact, I'm going to. There's a little bit of funk in those threads. I need just a little more oomph. And what you can't really see in the camera is not as critical here, but when I go to assemble this with the Loctite, I'm putting some pressure forward on that plate to make sure that the lugs are contacting like I want. We're going to use that same T10. Make sure my clamp screw is loose enough that I can get my ACRO on there in a moment. Ideally not so loose that you get the screw out of the Optic body. All right, we're going to take a quick look and make sure that I don't have any daylight below my plate, that everything's lining up correctly. We're going to take our Optic and make sure the Optic's going to clamp on correctly. That way, if there's something funky, we know about it now. We can stop and give the tech support team a call. Okay, everything looks good, everything feels good. So we're going to go ahead and take it apart and start doing the actual install. I am going to be using this degreaser here in a moment, so I'm going to set my Optic way off to the side. All of our modern Optics have coatings to help with light transmission, glare reduction, scratch resistance, all kinds of good things like that. However, those coatings are very susceptible to damage from degreasers, especially stuff like gun scrubber. So I'm going to set that way off to the side, so when I degrease everything, I don't run the risk of getting that degreaser on my coatings, on my lenses. We'll yank these screws out. If you have a torque wrench that reads in or measures inch pounds, that would be a good thing to use when we go to tighten these down for final assembly. All right, screws are out. We're going to set those aside. We're going to set the plate to the side. We're going to go ahead and degrease everything so that we don't have any oil, dirt, debris, anything like that on the gun or the plate. We'll start with the gun. A little bit of gun scrubber, rubbing alcohol works really good, acetone, nail polish remover, any of the above. Just trying to get any dirt, debris, and oil off of there. I know, we're pulling all the oil out of it. It is steel can rust, even with some of our modern finishes. The slide is stainless steel with a melanite or a QPQ finish, which is extremely corrosion resistant. The Optic plate has a BlackNitride finish, which is extremely corrosion resistant. And when we get our blue Loctite in here, once we clamp it all down, it'll spread out, and that'll give us a nice moisture barrier. Got the slide done. Now it's time for the Optic plate. If you watch the video for the RMR, the screws pass through the plate and bolt to the slide. Obviously, that doesn't work with the ACRO where the Optic clamps to the plate. So we're going to bolt directly to the slide. Bolt the plate directly to the slide. Speaking of which, I want to make sure and get down in my screw holes. About time for a new can. Degrease the threads on the screws. All right, like I said, blue Loctite's included in the kit. I already have an open tube, so I'm going to use that. We're going to use several drops. I'm going to start rear and to the left-hand side as we're looking through the sights and make sure and get a good drop back here. Again, I don't want to get too close to that silver plate because that is the firing pin safety plunger assembly. A couple of drops, good sized drops in between these recoil lugs that are machined into the slide. One on each side of the forward recoil lug. And I'm going to run about 3 across the front. Again, that's going to help everything adhere together. It's also going to create a moisture barrier. I'm going to take my plate, drop it in place, and then I'm going to add my screws with 1 drop of blue Loctite on each screw. All right, we'll get the screws started. Each one, just a couple of threads on each at first. Now that they're both started, I'm going to go ahead and get one until I can just feel that head stop. And then tighten the other side about the same. Now, I mentioned an inch-pound torque wrench earlier. If you have an inch-pound torque wrench, this is where you would want to use it. Set it for 6 to 8 inch-pounds and torque these. I don't have one handy, so screw head stops. I'm going to go about 1/8 of a turn past. And again, you can tell I'm not putting a ton of torque. I'm using thumb and forefinger and just going about 1/8 of a turn. That's all we need to do on the plate itself. It's good to go. Like I said, as I was tightening those screws, I was putting some forward pressure on that plate to make sure that the rear of the recoil lugs were bearing against the plate. Okay, and same thing, I'm putting some forward pressure on the Optic to make sure the recoil lug, that cross lug, is bearing against the slot and the plate. Same thing, 6 to 8 inch-pounds right here on torquing. Oh, missed it. There we go. Six to 8 inch-pounds right there. We're good to go. Now, we highly recommend that you let the Loctite dry for 12 to 24 hours before you go to the range. That lets it get to a full cure. Me personally, on those screws on the plate, I would witness mark them just in case, and then I would also witness mark my clamp screw. Just a quick visual inspection as I'm getting ready for the day or as I'm getting ready for a practice session, that everything is torqued correctly, especially that one. I don't want to pull my optic off, but if I had a wandering zero for some reason, I could yank the optic and make sure those screws hadn't backed out. There you have it. That's the installation of the ACRO plate on a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Optics Ready.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. Also, be sure to be following us on Instagram and Facebook to be up to speed in all the new things that we're doing. If you guys want early access into some of those cool things that we're doing, make sure that you're signed up for our email newsletter. You guys get exclusive discounts, early promos, and like I said, insights to all the new things that we're doing. As an American-made, family-owned company, our mission is to empower the good guy to be more confident, self-reliant, and prepared through functional weapon upgrades. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.